Welcome to the Explainer. So if you've noticed your wallet getting a little bit lighter lately, well, you're definitely not alone. We are rapidly transitioning away from the era of bulky leather billfolds and moving toward a future where the plastic credit card itself might literally become a museum artifact. Today, we're unpacking Mastercard's incredibly ambitious, biometric-driven payment vision for the future, and we'll explore exactly what this post-plastic era means for every single one of us.
I want you to really think about this for a second. When was the absolute last time you physically pulled out a piece of plastic, held it in your hand, and actually swiped or inserted it? Maybe it was your morning coffee run in Chicago or doing a quick grocery haul in Phoenix. For a whole lot of us, that physical card is already fading entirely into the background. We're paying without even thinking about it. And that completely friction-free behavior is the exact foundation for the massive structural change we're looking at today.
All right, Section 1, the fading plastic card. So we are living through this really clear evolution in our daily financial habits. If we look back a bit, cash used to be absolute king, right? But it slowly ceded its everyday ground. Then, the plastic card became the star of the show. We all carried a thick stack of them everywhere we went. But look at our present era. Contactless tech arrived, and suddenly, small purchases felt totally frictionless. A quick tap with Apple Pay or Google Pay is simply the default now for millions of people. This timeline represents a broader phenomenon known as consumer recalibration. Basically, the hardware and software teams at these massive tech and finance companies are slowly, methodically removing physical steps from our daily routines. And as they do, our baseline sense of normal changes. The plastic card is steadily getting demoted from the main event to just a backup sitting in your pocket. Moving on to Section 2, Mastercard's 2030 vision.
Okay, so Mastercard has planted a very specific flag in the ground, December 31, 2030. They are targeting this exact date to make digital-first payments the absolute norm across their entire network. This isn't just some vague, futuristic concept. It's a hard, industry-wide deadline to move away from traditional physical cards. But you might be wondering, why the aggressive rush? Why force a shift when the current system seems to work okay? Well, it boils down to one word: fraud. The payments industry wants to make stolen card numbers entirely useless to criminals once and for all. Because honestly, as long as those 16 digits remain printed on a piece of plastic, the entire system carries an inherent massive vulnerability.
Let's dive into Section 3, how tokenization works. To truly grasp this monumental shift, we have to look closely at the underlying tech that's replacing those familiar 16 digits. Enter the transaction token. Instead of passing your actual permanent bank details to a merchant every single time you buy something, tokenization acts as a digital stand-in. Think of it kind of like a temporary burner phone, but for your money. It generates a unique, highly encrypted code specifically for that single, isolated purchase. Once the transaction is done, boom, that specific code is completely useless. This really highlights the stark contrast between the old way of paying and the new digital reality. Traditional card numbers are entirely static. They don't change. And because you constantly reuse them across dozens of websites and physical stores, they're highly vulnerable. If a hacker breaches a merchant and gets that number, they can drain your account. Transaction tokens, on the other hand, are dynamic and one-time use. Instead of repeatedly exposing your actual digits, tokenization severely limits your surface area for exposure. Even if a massive merchant database gets completely breached by hackers, the stolen transaction tokens they walk away with are basically worthless digital confetti. Your true financial data stays entirely hidden behind the scenes.
Which brings us to Section 4, paying with your face. Now imagine your everyday checkout journey in the year 2030. As you walk up to the register at your local grocery store, a unique digital token is already generating behind the scenes. Instead of fumbling around your bag for a chipped card and then typing a memorized PIN on a dirty keypad, you just verify your identity with a simple, instantaneous biometric check. A quick press of a fingerprint or maybe a seamless facial scan, exactly like the one you probably use to unlock your phone dozens of times a day. And instantly approved. By seamlessly combining those one-time security tokens with your unique physical features, the entire checkout flow becomes lightning fast and incredibly secure. There are zero static account numbers for skimming devices to steal, and absolutely no PINs for someone to shoulder surf while you wait in line.
But of course, we need to look at Section 5. What could go wrong?
With all that promised convenience in mind, let's ask a vital question. What actually breaks when absolutely everything goes digital? A global payment system that lives entirely on digital screens and biometric scanners invites some entirely new, incredibly valid anxieties. I mean, imagine the sheer panic of realizing your ability to pay for a necessary tank of gas late at night, or a crucial train ticket to get home, relies entirely on a screen working perfectly in that exact second. We've all felt that sinking dread of seeing those handwritten, cash-only, systems down signs taped to a register when modern systems fail.
The practical vulnerabilities of this frictionless system are real pressure tests. What actually happens during a widespread network or cellular outage? Or, honestly, what about something as universally common as a completely dead phone battery at the end of a long day? Beyond just infrastructure, the absolute core issue here is basic accessibility. A financial system fully optimized for the absolute newest smartphones and always-on 5G connectivity runs a massive risk of leaving people behind. It naturally excludes users who rely on older devices or folks navigating life on highly restricted prepaid data plans. Mastercard and other giants are betting heavily that the massive systemic security gains will ultimately outweigh these frictions, but the simple reality is technological adoption is almost never uniform across different income levels or neighborhoods.
Finally, let's explore Section 6, the psychological shift.
If the physical card really does fade into the background as predicted, banks and merchants are going to have to completely rethink the consumer experience from the ground up. Take a standard process like returning an item at a store. Right now, the clerk almost always says, "Please insert the card you used to pay." Well, without a physical card in your pocket, how does that interaction actually work? How do they handle complex customer service when you can't just slide your plastic across the desk? The physical spaces, the hardware, the digital flows of everyday retail, they will all have to be completely redesigned around device-based and biometric identity. It is a massive logistical overhaul. There's this brilliant quote regarding this shift that perfectly captures this approaching reality. Carrying a physical card could feel like carrying an extra key. Think about that. Remember the last time you carried around a physical key to a door or an office that you just no longer use? It feels strange, bulky, and entirely unnecessary rattling around in your pocket. And that is exactly the emotional trajectory of the credit card. It's moving from an absolute daily necessity to just a vestigial artifact. Pretty soon, the simple act of carrying a fixed stack of plastic is just going to feel incredibly outdated. So, as we actively race toward this frictionless, post-plastic era of dynamic digital tokens and facial recognition checkouts, I want to leave you with this thought. Once enough of us simply stop reaching for that physical piece of plastic every single day, how long before that backup disappears from your wallet altogether? Will you personally be ready to leave the plastic behind? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep a very close eye on how you pay today, because the entire foundation of commerce is changing a whole lot faster than you think.